This week in America, ICE agents hit Los Angeles like they're auditioning for a reboot of Training Day. Israel decided to bomb another family building just to remind us they're still at war with basic humanity, and the founder of Girls Do Corn finally pled guilty to trafficking because apparently the only corn category he really specialized in was criminal. So many jokes for that story, but we might cut them out because it's actually a very serious case of exploitation. In the meantime, TikTok blinked out for a second and the entire Gen Z population lost their will to live. Roommates, parents, and romantic partners all called in to complain, mostly about the sudden drop in shower activity. Congress says it's a test for a potential ban, but it's really a test for our sense of smell. And then Trump's special decorated corner of hell. He's reinstating the travel ban, canceling Harvard visas, and beefing with Elon Musk like it's a rap battle. Only this time, they're both Drake. Oh, and for his birthday, he's throwing himself a $45 million military parade. Because when you got fragile masculinity, you don't just waste time throwing parties, you also waste taxpayer money. To the tune of $26 million on golf in 5 months. I don't think he even spends his own money like this. Let's begin. This week, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, better known as ICE, or America's least invited house guest, raided multiple neighborhoods across Los Angeles in what officials called a targeted sweep. Targeted is a funny word because it didn't feel surgical. It felt like a hammer swing. Over 100 people were arrested, families were separated, entire blocks erupted in chaos that hasn't cooled since. What started with vans rolling through Boyle Heights and Compton turned into protests that shut down intersections, lit trash fires, and brought out tear gas and rubber bullets. One woman climbed on top of a Homeland Security vehicle and got yanked off like a prop in a bad Netflix show. Another protester live-streamed federal agents storming a home, no warrant in sight. Within 48 hours, the National Guard was deployed. President Trump signed off, saying it was to maintain order. Governor Newsom said, nah, this is martial law. The ACLU was already suing. Journalists were hit, bystanders were hospitalized, and the whole city is on edge. ICE claims they were targeting people with prior deportation orders, but in LA, where immigration status, work, and survival are all knotted up, targeting becomes a dragnet real quick. That's how a kid ends up watching his dad get thrown into a van while he's taking out the trash. Let's not act brand new here. This is the same ICE that got a history of kidnapping citizens, locking up kids, and making border detention look like the season finale of Black Mirror. Listen to what Governor Gavin Newsom had to say about everything that's going on.
Fox News is calling it the LA riots. Is it a peaceful protest? What's happening? What are you seeing?
Well, I mean, look, Donald Trump has created the conditions you see on your TV tonight. He's exacerbated the conditions. He's, lit the proverbial match. He's putting fuel on this fire ever since he announced he was taking over the National Guard. An illegal act, an immoral act, an unconstitutional act, and we're going to test that theory with a lawsuit tomorrow.
This whole ordeal is a psychological message dressed up like a mission. One that says you're not safe, you're not welcome, and no matter how long you've been here, you are disposable. It's quite unsettling to see in real time. So much so, in fact, that I have to imagine that it's not so different from some things that Anne Frank saw in Nazi Germany. This week, Israeli forces launched another airstrike in Gaza, killing over 70 Palestinians in a single night, including 16 in one home. A residential building was hit, flattened, and buried entire generations. And in case you're wondering, no, there was no confirmed Hamas target inside. This is what self-defense looks like when you have all the weapons and none of the restraint. The Israeli military claims the building housed militant infrastructure, a phrase so vague it can mean anything from a radio to a relative who once liked a tweet. And even if it did, how does that justify taking out toddlers in their pajamas? But that's the point. Look, this is not about targeting terrorists. This is about collective punishment. It's about exhausting the will of an entire people until they have nothing left but rubble, trauma, and another funeral. We're running out of places to bury people, guys. Look, if this sounds familiar, it's because that's what the US did to black communities in the 20th century. Bombed, burned, buried every pocket of success under the lie of keeping the peace. And just like back then, aid was on the way until it wasn't. The same night as the airstrike, an aid convoy heading into Gaza was ransacked not by Israeli forces but by armed settlers, civilians, with guns, blocking food, burning supplies, and walking away untouched. Because in an apartheid system, even vigilantes get immunity. Meanwhile, the US sends weapons and statements. One flattens buildings, the other just flattens our credibility. And the media, still calling it clashes, as if Gaza has tanks, as if starving families are equal participants in a war. So I'm sitting here asking, if Hamas is really the target, where are the special forces? Why not precision raids? Why not surgical action? Because that's not the goal. The goal is not to actually get the targets. It's to cause devastation. The goal is deterrence by way of annihilation of these people that they no longer want there. And I know how that feels. As a black American, I lived in a country that paints you violent and punishes you for it while quietly hoping you disappear. So when I look at Gaza, I see a pattern. I see state power using fear as justification. I see propaganda dressed as press briefings. And I see the same cycle. Lie, then bomb, and destroy the evidence. This is not foreign policy. These are patterns of generational abuse that is probably used worldwide. So this week, Michael Pratt, the founder of Girls Do Corn, pleaded guilty to federal sex trafficking charges after years on the run and a spot on the FBI's 10 most wanted list. For nearly a decade, Pratt ran what prosecutors described as a well-oiled coercion machine, luring women with fake modeling jobs and then trapping them into performing on camera under threats, lies, and manipulation. The women were often in their late teens or early 20s, many with no industry experience. Once on set, they were pressured, isolated, lied to, told the videos will only be posted overseas, told they'd be sued if they backed out. Sometimes they were stranded with no return flight. And once the footage hit the internet, their lives started to unravel. Jobs lost, families fractured, mental health wrecked. A 2021 civil case awarded the victims $12.7 million, but most haven't seen a dime. All while Pratt and his co-defendants pulled in over $17 million, which honestly doesn't even sound like that much. Not for the cost. 3 other men have already been sentenced. Pause, go. 3 other men have already been sentenced, 14 to 20 years each, but Pratt, as the ringleader, now faces life. The videos are still online. The trauma is still ongoing. And no plea deal erases what these women lost. Now look, being woke is not for the weak. Actually living in what you understand, making the hard choices even when the world hasn't caught up. That's a lonely path sometimes. So, round of applause for you. Yeah, you. And if you're not woke, you just want me to shut the hell up and give you the next story, fine. This week, the US and China quietly resumed high-level trade negotiations in London, specifically over rare earth minerals and the tariffs currently throttling both sides of the supply chain. If you're wondering why these particular talks matter, here's the deal. Rare earth minerals are what keep modern life running. They're in your phone, your car, your military defense systems. Hell, even your electric toothbrush probably owes its spin cycle to something dug up in the Chinese mine. After years of mounting tension and tit-for-tat tariffs, both nations seem to be realizing that mutually assured economic damage isn't actually a solid long-term strategy. Look, China controls nearly 70% of global rare earth processing. The US wants to shift that power, but surprise, surprise, building your own supply chain takes more than waving a flag and yelling, "Made in America." So here they are. 2 global superpowers awkwardly dancing around the table, pretending not to hate each other while quietly asking, "Can we trade, but like on my terms?" It's diplomacy, but desperate. And in the background, Trump's busy throwing around new tariffs like he's playing Monopoly on meth. So even if this meeting leads to progress, the next tweet could derail the whole thing. And it's likely to happen probably while I'm posting this show, because goddamn, he's quick with the shit. Alright, y'all, look, it's time for the Trump dump because even political sewage needs a weekly flush. Oh, God, that joke is not getting better. Look, this week, the world's most insecure orange finally met his match, Elon Musk. That's right, our 2 richest divorced dads of the apocalypse are fighting again, and it's quite the show. Look, it all started when Elon called Trump's big budget bill a quote-unquote disgusting abomination. Trump fired back like a boomer who just figured out how to reply to tweets, threatening to cancel billions in SpaceX contracts like he's still running The Apprentice. But Elon was not done. He went full nuclear and said Trump's name came up in Epstein's files. That's not a beef, that's a crime season teaser. Look, Trump then hit back with the ultimate middle school power move. We're not friends anymore. Bro, just pass him a note that says, "Do you like me? Yes or no?" Because that's what it looks like between these 2 guys right now. Meanwhile, their mutual fan bases are confused, sweaty, and probably crying in their crypto wallets. Also in Trump world, he reinstated the Muslim travel ban like it's a throwback Thursday for fascists. He canceled Harvard visas, which basically means no more bougie brainiacs with bad credit. And for his birthday, he's planning a $45 million military parade. There's nothing says I'm 78 and desperate like forcing a bunch of 19-year-olds to march for you while you wear too much bronzer and wave like a queen. I don't know if Trump is trying to be president or auditioning for a Broadway show called The Tyrant Who Cried Bigly. And if all this sounds exhausting, it is, but don't worry, that's what this segment is for. It's your weekly reminder that nothing Trump does is new. Just recycled nonsense with better graphics. My better graphics. So breathe, drink some water, text your therapist, and remember, we don't report on Trump because we like it. We do it so you don't have to explain it to your aunt at dinner. Just send her the video. That's it for this week's Trump dump. If you made it this far without screaming into a pillow, congrats. You're either very strong or emotionally numb. Or just insane. Maybe this is normal. Look, treat yourself. Watch a cat video, bake something, lie down dramatically. And come back next week when Trump will probably try to buy Mars or marry a Chick-fil-A. Nothing surprises me anymore. And that's the show. We started this episode with ICE raids, war crimes, corn trafficking billionaires, and somehow still ended up with Elon Musk and Trump slap fighting in public like divorced influencers. That is some extreme range. I'm actually quite proud of America this week. You know, we're expanding our palette a little bit, right? Look, we've witnessed America raid homes, fund genocide, ignore justice, threaten TikTok, and throw a military parade for a man who thinks Juneteenth is a flavor of soda. And if you're wondering why do I keep watching this show when it makes me sad and confused and weirdly hungry, you're not alone. I'm fucking hungry right now, but look, you're here, and that means you're one of the chosen few who can handle the truth and the jokes without rage quitting your entire personality. So thank you. Now go hug a friend, or doom scroll in peace, or stand in the kitchen eating shredded cheese straight out the bag like the emotionally stable citizen that you are. This has been the Adonis Black Show. We'll see you next week with more chaos, more comedy, even more reasons to laugh, just hard enough to not cry. I'm Adonis Black, and if America's gonna go down, we might as well narrate it with jokes. I'll see you guys next week.